Alright guys, welcome to another video, and I am in the R class again on my way to Florida, which is going to be the last stop of this trip. After Florida I'm going to be heading back to Canada, hopefully, if there's nothing else that comes up. But anyways, this video is going to be about when I was still in Texas, because the other really cool thing that happened over there was that I met up with Neil from BXR Motors. If you don't know his channel, Neil was actually pretty popular a few years ago. He was building this really cool 1400 horsepower car. So yeah, this video is going to be about going out and checking out Neil's car, which was a little different from my project because like my car is a fully track focused car, but his car had to be a street legal car with a fully finished interior and everything. So it was pretty cool to see how he did some of the things that he did on his car, and also seeing what he plans to do on his car later, which you're going to see on his channel like in future videos. But yeah, anyways, back to the video for now. I'm here in Texas with Neil from BXR Motors, and yeah, he has a really cool project going on, which this is a car that he actually did build and complete, and also took it to SEMA, and now he's actually taking it all apart again, and he's pretty much starting from scratch, building a whole new chassis. So I guess, yeah, first let's start off by talking about the engine, because I think that's probably like the most defining part of the build, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a Coyote 5.0 that you'd find in your typical, Ford Mustang. This is a little different, so it's been modified quite a bit, and it's the Illuminator version of the 5.0 series that you can buy as a crate motor. And this is twin turbo, and it has a little bit lower compression for that twin turbo, capability, and for making boost and things. So the dyno numbers for this engine is around 1300 horsepower, 1375. It's supposed to be a little bit over 1400, but that's where we got it on the dyno for now. But that's plenty of horsepower, so
yeah, that's insane.
It's mounted to a 6-speed Tremec T56 transmission, which is a pretty lightweight transmission that is something you would find in your like Viper or maybe the Hellcat. I think has the same transmission, and they come in a lot of different configurations. So that's what we have on this, with the all steel bell housing and a twin clutch by McLeod. So
it's a twin disc clutch, right?
Oh, it's twin disc clutch,
yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And like, how much torque is this engine making? So that like the clutch can handle it?
At 13, when we dynoed, it was making a little over 900 foot-pounds of torque.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. So far, we haven't really broke anything but a few drive shafts.
Yeah, tell them about the drive shafts actually.
Yeah, so we've been through 3 drive shafts. The first one that we had was a custom-built carbon fiber drive shaft, and that one shattered for just whatever reason on the track during testing. And then we went to a thicker aluminum one that was like about 6 inches in diameter, and that one just kind of ended up with some distortions in it. In the long run, we ended up going and getting a cheap drive shaft from the local drive shaft shop, and for $60, and that's been our best drive shaft so far for this. And of course, it's only like 2.5 feet long, drive shaft, so there's not a lot to it, but it's really it's been good so far. So we'll see how it is on the new setup, because the new setup I expect some things to happen with that.
So you're planning to push more power with the new setup, or like is the goal the same?
I just think the power is going to be delivered differently, and the way that the new suspension and driveline, I don't think there's going to be as much give. The first chassis was definitely a prototype, and we can probably look at that in a second if we want to, but yeah, it was definitely a kind of a prototype. Now that we've gone through and done what we need to do with that, it's time to build a different, lighter weight setup that is more rigid and suitable for the racetrack and the specific performance applications that we're looking for. The first time we had on the track at the local, we have like a local country club racetrack. We ended up breaking the track record on the first day at the highest speed for that track, which was 114 miles an hour on that track. And it's a very windy track with not a lot of straight runs, so it's very difficult to get up to high speeds on it. But we were putting down way too much power, and we had to actually dial the power down and reduce the turbo power and everything. For us, when we went to SEMA, we just wanted to take something that was like you know, something that people would just gawk at, you know, like, oh, that makes 1,400 horsepower, because people are really into the numbers.
That's true.
But when you're racing, it's really not about how much power you have. It's really more about the handling and how you can get that power to the ground.
That's true.
So a lot of times the having a car that makes about 500 to 700 horsepower is plenty for a race application, you know, especially for this type of vehicle.
Also showing you guys a bit on this, well, chassis, what would you call this part? Like the windshield frame?
I guess in vehicle terms, this would be your cowl section of like underneath the back part of your hood. And this is kind of like the rain catch from the water running off the windshield, which would be normally in this area. And this is actually molded and modeled off of a MX-5 Mazda, and that's what we use for the front glass on this, because it's real expensive to try to have glass manufactured. So I kind of started at the glass level at a lot of the places where it's really you know, expensive and complex to have made, and then branched out from there as what I wanted the whole vehicle. Now the outside of the door is completely custom. It's not actually Mazda. Only the internal parts and the inside of the door and the glass are from Mazda.
Yeah, that's the cool thing to see. You can, like, this is all actually fiberglass, but you can actually see all the spot welds and everything. It looks exactly like it would be steel in like a production car.
Yeah.
And but no, it's actually
the whole thing is fiberglass, and this is has a special core material on the inside. So this car could actually roll over on the roof, and you would be safe. It's almost as strong as like a roll cage in a sense, but the body is super lightweight, even though it's not carbon fiber.
Your original plan was to go with carbon fiber, right?
Yeah, so I definitely saved some weight going carbon fiber, but being a kind of a prototype, you just want to do that last after everything is finalized, because producing carbon fiber molds and all that gets expensive, you know.
That's true.
And yeah, I mean, so fiberglass is fine. It's lightweight enough.
Also, I guess one really cool thing at the back is this whole subframe setup. It's actually a subframe taken from a Mustang, right?
Yeah, it's a 2005 Mustang GT 350, supposedly. I'm still not 100% sure on that, but this is pretty lightweight. It's super strong, and for me, it fit perfect with the wheels and the setup. So I didn't make any changes to the car. I bought the rear end. I wasn't 100% sure exactly the size it was going to be, but as you can tell, I have it inside, just sitting in there right now, but the wheels are actually sitting on, and they're not bolted, but they're not sticking out super far.
Also, talking about the wheels and tires, these are actually 355 tires at the back. They're like the widest street legal tires.
Yeah, these are they are the Pirelli P0. They're a 355 by 30, and they are ZR rated 19-inch wheels.
So the wheels that went with the tires, were they custom made for this car?
Yeah,
or?
so these wheels were made by, how do you say that, Valino? And they custom built the wheels for us. They're a 3-piece wheel, and they are 14 inches wide. 14 and a
Wow,
half
crazy.
inches wide, yeah.
I think I'm at 11 at the back, so 3 more inches to that. That's insane.
Yeah, they got about a 4-inch lip on the inside.
And the fronts are a lot skinnier, right? Like they are 295. Oh, they're still 295.
Yeah.
These rear tires are so wide they make everything else basically look like this.
I know. Yeah.
Wow.
The fronts are 295s, 30 Pirellis, and yeah. So we custom made all this exhaust. I literally hand cut this exhaust with a sawzall, with this exact sawzall. And so we put carbide blades on it so it can cut through the fiberglass, which works great, because this car actually has Kevlar and fiberglass in it.
Okay, so all this like stuff at the front is Kevlar?
Well, so this is actually a heat shield. So this is a crazy material. It's made, I can't remember the name of it to be honest, but it's actually made out of lava rock. And it's kind of strange, but you can put a blowtorch on it and it'll glow red, and you don't feel the temperature behind your hand.
Yeah, pretty cool. Also, talking about the custom seats over here, that's another thing. Like, this car has a lot of custom parts when you think about it, like custom brakes, right? Custom Brembo brakes that were made for this car.
Yeah.
custom wheels, custom seats.
We had a very short timeline to get everything done, so we outsourced the seats to a company in Austin, Texas, called Austin Interiors, and they do a lot of exotic cars like Porsches, Lamborghinis, even Ferraris, and they use a lot of nice materials. So they were just one of the best recommended people, and so we had sent them the seats, and these originally started off as like a Sparco, I don't remember the number, but it was like an R33 or something like that, series seat, which was kind of like a certified racing seat, but still allowed you to have some adjustability of moving the seat forward and leaning it back. So we wanted the, not be a fixed racing seat. We wanted some luxury aspects to it. And they did the recovering of this, and we went with a kind of a dark brown leather because I wanted that nostalgic feel for the interior of the car. And they covered the whole interior in black and this same color. So it was like 25 grand just to cover the interior of the car, and they did it in 3 days.
Oh wow!
So they did it really fast, and they did a great job. So I highly recommend them if you're in that area. Another thing, this is my shocks. I haven't even talked to you about these.
Yeah.
So let me just pull one out if I can. So it's a big wiring mess because there's a lot to these. But these are the, okay, that's as far as I'm going because it's all tied together. But these are electronic shocks, and so they have a bit of wire here, and inside is a valving system that allows the shock to adjust its dampening capabilities within like 8 milliseconds or something around that time. And then there's a double reservoir you can adjust manually if you wanted to. And then there's also a piston here which goes to a separate reservoir, which is stuck up in that area. And this actually allows you to weight balance the car, so you can tell the computer to raise the car up a little bit and to adjust the dynamics of the car. Yeah, and you can do all this via your phone.
And like, what's the rate of like, how fast can it change height on individual wheels just by moving the spring?
It's really slow.
It's really slow?
Yeah.
Okay. It's mainly for like adjusting corner balance and ride height, but not for...
It's before you get on the track, not while you're on the track. So yeah, you definitely do all of that as a pre-configuration, and you can set it up in the app. So you can actually go in the app and you can label out like a rainy day, a dry day, a hot day, warm, tired days, and you can have pre-configurations for your suspension for each of those conditions.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, so that's pretty nice.
So this is the chassis that, well, the car was using, but now he's actually changing the whole chassis because this chassis, believe it or not, was actually made in, what, 2 days or 3 days? 2 days, right?
Yeah, so we basically over, it's really a blur because we were up for, non-stop sleep because we had 2 days to get to SEMA and we hadn't had our chassis finished yet. So we pretty much welded the whole thing in 2 days, and then we had about a day to send it off to powder coat and get it powder coated, and then we had to come back and assemble it all.
That is crazy. Just thinking about like all this work, all this welding, like cutting all these angles and like the suspension and everything, all being done in 2 days. That is insane.
We definitely had 3 or 4 people welding non-stop on it for the full 2 days. And I mean, we were all sunburned like you wouldn't believe. In areas you wouldn't believe too. I mean, we were sunburned like crazy. It was just it was a kind of a mad dash to make it to SEMA.
Custom steering wheel too.
Yeah, and one of the things that we had to do is I had to actually maintain the steering wheel. I couldn't use an aftermarket steering wheel because we were using the Ford racing computer, and that computer has to talk to the steering wheel. So so because the steering wheel is a canvas-driven steering wheel. Oh wow. Yeah, so all of these little features and functions and everything actually control things for the car, including like your some of your drive settings and stuff like that, and need to talk to the internal display. So we had another manufacturer build us a display, and we had to have them make it compatible with what the Ford signals were, so that we could control like the steering was the biggest headache for us to change the steering modes. So yeah,
Yeah, no, these things take a lot of time. Like for my car, I threw away all this CAN bus and everything and just went with my own electronics to like control this. But actually getting all this working together it's a really difficult task.
Yeah. And that's one area, like, you know, I wasn't the best welder, so I would let a lot of the welding guys do stuff while I worked on the wiring. I was pretty good with the wiring and figuring out, you know, how things needed to route and how they needed to communicate and talk with all the other systems that we had, because we had not just a Ford racing computer, we had another system in place too that we had to talk to.
And this was just a temporary chassis, right? Like you never intended to use square tubes, but it was just something you had to do to get the car.
I mean, like on the new chassis, I have square tubes, but it's just 2x2 and they're real lightweight for the core section of the car, so that it makes it easy to mount the belly pans and things like that. But the rest of the chassis will all be made out of 1.5 inch DOM tubing. This one we overbuilt it, and really, because we didn't know what we were going to be dealing with when it came to a car that could produce 1,400 horsepower and 900 foot-pounds of torque or whatever, we wanted to make sure that this chassis didn't fail on us at all, so we basically overbuilt it.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things to just talk about, like the power the engine makes and like what type of torque goes through your chassis. Most people don't realize that the power your engine is making is not actually the torque your chassis has to go through. Like the torque your chassis is having to go through is the torque you're actually putting down on the wheels, because that's that's the torque that goes through your drive shaft actually. So it's sometimes for lighter cars you can get away with quite a weaker chassis than you might need in like a truck or something.
And I'm kind of old school, so I came from like a lot of the 1960s. Like I used to have a 69 Mustang and a 72 convertible Mustang, and then I had a 66 Chevy Nova Super Sport, and I had a lot of power on those motors, and a lot of times from where the engine mounted, we ended up with torsional stresses on the vehicle twisting. So the whole chassis was stress and twist. And I remember I had an 88 Mustang, a big Mustang guy, but in my 88 Mustang, I had it at the racetrack and I launched it really hard and it twisted the whole body. And so I had to go and get that body realigned, and I had to put it on the machine and torque it back. And they had to stop me because I was going to break my rear glass of the car before I went too far. So I ended up putting a roll cage in that to fix it. And this had kind of a roll cage in it at one point, but we already cut it out.
Also, like, I guess let's talk a bit about the suspension. Well, the suspension's more complete on this side.
I took that one apart.
Yeah, so it's a double wishbone front and back.
Yeah, so this is just a standard double wishbone style suspension. I intended back when we first started for it to be a push rod setup, but we had to go to the shock or the dampener to be mounted in kind of a standard location in between the A-arms. That's just because we ran out of space and time to try to figure out the push rod setup. But it has the electric steering module, which is nice.
That's a massive electric power steering.
Yeah, and this has different modes in it. It's actually Ford Racing module, and so you can adjust the feel and the stiffness and all of that with the steering. But yeah, the rear had the suspension tied in between these 2 points here. I just kind of have this piece of metal to hold the suspension up right now.
So it was a push rod setup basically. These were the push rods. There was the shocks and dampers that used to go over here.
Yeah. So the shocks would be between this distance. Very, very short shocks, like they are on your car. Yeah, the axles back here are huge.
Yeah, just look at the size of the axles.
On the other car now, so.
Massive.
And these are aftermarket axles that we bought later to handle 1,200 horsepower.
Wow.
I'm not really sure that the knuckle would have handled that. But I don't know, you get surprised. Like I look at some of the GTR knuckles and other vehicles that are producing crazy horsepower, and they're forged aluminum knuckles as well. So
yeah, it depends on the weight of the car. Like for a lightweight car like this, I believe this would easily be strong enough.
Yeah. The future is to finish up the chassis on this car, and I have a lot of material down here to start building the new roll cage. And so this car is going to be fully roll caged out, and it's probably going to have between a 10 to 12 point roll cage inside.
And are there any specific bracing regulations you're following to?
Yeah, I'm kind of sticking to a wide spectrum of the standard SCCA rules versus the NASA, like NASA rules, and then some of the GT class rules as well. So I really want someone to be able to just have fun, purchase this car, and have it be affordable, and to be able to meet the majority of the type of racing I think people have the most fun in. This will eventually have full traction control and launch control and all that stuff. It already has boost by gear and boost controls like that. So we'll have complete control over everything that the car does. And that's going to be fun to sort out.
Yeah, and lastly, talking about this, all of this is actually a street legal car. Like, it meets all the requirements for road use, like the headlights are at the right place, everything, the height of the car. It actually meets all the regulations.
During the research, when I first started this whole idea, I started at not just like the glass and things like that, but also at the regulations that a vehicle needed to meet to be road legal. And that was super important. And here in the States, it's kind of crazy because every state has their own regulation for certain aspects of the car. So a lot of it has to do with the headlight height from the ground to the headlight and to the center of the headlight, and then at the angle that the markers have to be seen from. It took me a long time to figure out and actually get the rule books and figure out all the regulations, because it's kind of a secret in the automotive industry. And then, finding that for the front, I had to find it for the back, and then I needed to spec it out, and then also try to accommodate European standards too. So European standards, luckily, are close enough, and a lot of their regulations will come down to the engine size and emissions.
Also, talking about emissions, were you running catalytic converters and everything on the car?
Not on this one.
But you are planning to?
I would like to try and see what it would be like, because this will definitely make your eyes tear up.
Well, because that's the challenging thing. When you go with an engine that makes 1400 horsepower, what type of catalytic converters do you go with to still have that much flow and still meet emissions too?
Yeah, so on this car, I had a 3-inch exhaust all the way through. It should probably be 4-inch.
Yeah, I think
and then
for
I
that
would
type
probably end up going with a 6-inch catalytic converter, which they're actually pretty big, and it's a 6-inch inlet and outlet, and if I could squeeze them into the space, I would like to try to use them. But the problem is they actually kind of need to be
really close to the turbo. Yeah.
So I don't know if that's going to happen or not. But we'll see what happens. Now with this version, this has front side exiting exhaust, and so the exhaust exits out to the front behind the wheels. And I have that in my renderings that everybody can see, but I still have the ability to have rear exiting exhaust for the street, and so I've allowed just enough room to run 3 and 4-inch pipe out to the back, but just barely. So the biggest part of that is heat management to the interior. I think I have that resolved. So.
Yeah, because heat management is huge in a car like this. Like, I remember on my E55 when I used to track it, on one occasion I actually burnt some insulation in my transmission tunnel, and the whole transmission tunnel caught fire. I was able to put that fire out, but still, that's what sometimes you don't realize when you're putting this type of power, how much heat is actually going through the exhaust.
Yeah, definitely. And I remember when we did the dyno run of this whole setup was glowing, every single bit. The only thing that wasn't glowing was this.
Yeah, that shouldn't be glowing. If that's glowing, then then you're definitely in trouble.
These tubes, so this part of the headers right here, and this is something that a lot of people need to consider. You just can't go and make this type of header. These are really, really thick walled headers. And when you're running a turbo application where you have a ton of back pressure to your turbos, these things heat up like twice as much as they would with an open style exhaust system. And running it on the dyno, we really got to see just how hot they got. But knowing that they're not just going to melt or distort or warp or fall off was good to know, because they're made 2 to 3 times thicker than your standard pipe is made out of.
Wow.
So these right here are actually a thinner pipe than this right here.
So that was everything for Neil's car, but I will link his channel in the description below. There's a lot more content that's going to be coming up on his channel about building his new chassis and everything. But talking about what we did after that, we took the E55 ASL to the Motorsport Ranch, which was a local track there in Texas. But I wouldn't really call this a track day because I didn't push the car too much. It was a really small track with a lot of turns and I wasn't used to the racing line. So that's why it was taking me a really long time to even get used to the track, and furthermore the car had a bit of a problem. There was a turbo oil feed line that there was a fitting on it that cracked and it started leaking oil, but which wasn't a big problem, but the thing was we didn't have a spare one on us over there, so we couldn't really replace it. So that's why, yeah, I couldn't really do too many laps on that occasion, but still it was really fun going out on that track. So that's going to be everything for this video. While talking about what's coming up in the next few videos, well, first of all, I wanted to take the 55 ASL to one more track day here in Florida, but now I think I'm probably going to skip that track day because there's a few things that I need to fix. First of all, there was an oil leak on one of the turbo feed lines, which was not a major thing. It was just a small fitting that's cracked that I need to change, that I will be changing really soon. But the other thing is that my tires are completely done now. I need to replace my tires, which is the other thing I'm going to be doing here in Florida. And I'm also going to be getting an alignment done because since Laguna Seca, I've been playing around with the alignment, like trying to align it with the rope and everything. And now that the cambers and everything are mostly figured, I just want to take the car in for like one final alignment, get it aligned at a shop so that everything is perfectly set to where I want it to be set, and hopefully then I'll be able to keep this alignment for a little longer than what I've been doing so far. If everything is looking good, I don't know, maybe I'll do one more track day, but I don't want to promise that for now. I don't feel like there's a need for one more track day anyways, because I think everything with the car is pretty much figured now, except for the aero, which I can't figure now because I need to fix up a lot of things on the car before I get to that point. So, but yeah, that's going to be everything for now. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
And if you get a flat tire, you've got your own air tank so you can fill them up. It's good.
Yes.